how to get to the next level of getting back to where, I could play golf, I could play basketball. I actually got myself out of it. I learned a bunch of different things, becoming a PT, and I did a sports residency. So I'm actually a board certified sports specialist. What I really like about what you said is, right, you changed completely the stressors that are occurring. Developing youth athletes is you don't want them to specialize till way later. You want them to do a lot of different things. It keeps them more injury free because you're using so many different.
Well, welcome. This is Wally Darling with the Darling Difference podcast, and I'm today visiting with Matt Brown, who's a physical therapist, business in Arizona. And so, welcome, Matt. Thank you for spending some time with us. And like I said earlier, if you could start off by just giving us a little background of yourself and how you started your company, and what's the nature of your business right now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So, I'm a physical therapist. And so I started this business 2.5 years ago. We're actually a cash pay clinic, so we don't do any insurance here. Lots of different reasons for that. But the main reason I got into this is I actually suffered from chronic low back pain, through my late 20s. It started about when I was 25, 26. And I actually didn't get out of it until like 31. And I saw a bunch of different physical therapists, chiropractors, massage, orthopedic surgeons. And everything just seemed because I played collegiate basketball. I was very active, very high level stuff that I was wanting to do, lifting heavy.
Where'd you play basketball at?
So I played, my first year was in Yavapai Community College, and then I played in Glendale Community College. And then I hurt my knee, and I was going to I thought about playing at a NAIA school, but I don't know, it was going to be too much effort. And coming back from an injury wasn't going to be easy. So
we have that kind of in common. I played for Appalachia State.
Nice.
And just for a couple years, and then I went in the service. But when you talk about basketball, one of the things that I was very fortunate is I didn't really have any knee injuries or problems like that. And I used to play pickup basketball with my soldiers in the Army.
Yeah.
And as an officer, they always liked the fact that I could give them as good as I could get it. And I was
gives
just
you
a
certain level
player.
of respect, right?
Exactly. When you're driving to the hoop or sinking a 3-pointer on them, they all of a sudden wake up and go, "Hey, this is not your average white guy officer."
Yeah, I can't mess with this guy that much.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, no, yeah, I can appreciate that. Basketball is my favorite sport to play. I love playing basketball. I was unfortunate with a knee injury. I still have a little bit, playing basketball is tough on my knee, but it's not debilitating like back pain is. Back pain is like, takes you out of everything. It's hard to roll over. It's hard to sit on a toilet. It's hard to do basic things. And I got to a point where it was all day, every day I had pain. And obviously it fluctuated in its severity, but so I just couldn't find how to get to the next level of getting back to where, I could play golf, I could play basketball. And so I actually got myself out of it. I learned a bunch of different things, becoming a PT, and I did a sports residency. So I'm actually a board certified sports specialist. So going through all these things, learning from a bunch of different mentors, I developed a plan and I attacked it for about a year and a half of doing rehab work. And then it got me out of pain. And then I did another 5 or 6 months of really strengthening it and like going heavy at it to make sure I could do all my sports. Now I don't have any problems now with my back, but that's where I focus my clinic on is helping former athletes get back to the things that they love doing. Because, we like to use age as a thing that keeps us from playing sports or doing what we love. But it's actually not the age factor, it's more what we've prepared our body to do. And as we get older, we prepare less, but we still think we can do the same amount of, or the same intensity, but yet we never train or actually prepare our bodies to do that intensity. So that's what I help people do now.
Yeah, and that's great because, I look back at like my history. I'm 64, so I'm quite a bit older. I've probably got kids your age.
They say
But
my
point
dad's
is,
65.
yeah,
Yeah.
so in my history, I stopped playing basketball at 35 because I said, I don't really have the ability to play like I used to. I couldn't dunk anymore and all that kind of stuff. But it saved my knees. And then I became a golfer and I was a two handicap. Well, I used to have this big, long, fluid swing.
Yeah.
And then I've said, I'm seeing all these people with back problems. I'm like, well, let me shorten that up. So I went to a 3/4, and used my lower body hips and stuff. And,
Yeah.
I did that up until about 60. And then I've really gotten into fly fishing. So golf is not as big a factor, but because I made those transitions,
Yeah.
I didn't have, the elbow operations or the hip replacements or the knee all that kind of stuff, because I kind of saw the writing on the wall. It's like,
Yeah.
look, if you've got to lay down for 2 days after doing whatever, overexerting yourself, then that's a sign that you need to make a change.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Agreed. It's, that means you're not prepared for it. And yeah, you either make a change and make it an easier activity that you can do, or what I really like about what you said is, right, you change completely the stressors that are occurring. Right, they talk about that in developing youth athletes. Is you don't want them to specialize till way later. You want them to do a lot of different things. It keeps them more injury free because you're using so many different patterns. You're not just doing the same pattern over and over and over again. That's what
yeah, and I
develops,
and
some of these chronic things that occur is because we we do such repetitive things for a really long time at a high intensity. If we don't recover properly, it just wears it down.
Yeah, and I personally, just full disclosure, am currently going through some physical therapy because I had a transplant.
Okay.
And over the last 2 years, I lost 50 pounds of pretty much muscle,
Yeah. Yeah.
and my balance and all that kind of stuff, to get back in the river fly fishing, I knew I had to get it back
Yeah.
because otherwise it would be dangerous to get into a river
Yeah. That river
without
will take you
balancing.
down.
Yeah, take me down. And so tell me about your practice. I mean, is it just you? Do you have employees?
Yeah, great question. So I brought on my first full-time physical therapist back in March. So it's me and her, and then I have a part-time back end admin that does billing and stuff. But it's just us two, and I'm looking to bring on a third here probably at the beginning of the year. So I'm really
Okay, all
trying
right.
to expand here in these next couple years. So I'm trying to move more away from being in the business and working on the business. That's my transition right now, is trying to do less in the business so I can actually help it grow and grow systems and stuff to make it scalable.
Yeah, so in my world, we call that the CEO model, where you transition from being a client-facing person, to really, like you said, working on the growth of the business and managing it like a CEO.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's currently where I'm at. I'm still seeing clients, but trying to transition away as much as I can as we
Mhm.
once we bring on two more PTs, I won't be seeing clients at all. That's
Right,
but that's kind of where I have to get to before I can transition fully away.
right. And you said you're kind of a cash-based business, not insurance.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And there again, like I have major medical, thank goodness, because I, my transplant was 600 grand. So I'd have been, you know, considering bankruptcy if I had to pay that out of pocket.
Yeah.
But even in my major medical, I only have 20 visits that's covered underneath, so sometimes 20 visits might be good. In my case, it probably will be because I'm really just trying to understand, okay, what are my limitations to build back muscle?
Yep.
But I would imagine a lot of clients, 20 visits is just a drop in a bucket. So I
Yeah.
don't know. What's your experience?
Yeah. So those are great questions. And it really is dependent. Chronic pain takes a really long time to get out of. So most of those clients, 20 visits isn't gonna touch it because like I explained earlier, it took me a year and a half to get out, and I was only in chronic pain for about 5 to 6 years. There's people that have been in chronic pain for 15 years, right? And so
Yeah.
these people they need help over a longer period of time. The traditional model, you see the PTs see people 2 or 3 times a week, right? So that 20 visits goes in, right? If you're seeing them 2 times a week, yeah, you got 10 weeks max, and then it's gone. 10
Sure.
weeks isn't even enough time for your body to fully start adapting. Really, it's between 8 to 12 weeks where it actually starts to adapt. People talk about that all the time with muscle hypertrophy. It starts at the 8 weeks and then it grows from there. But all your tissues adapt just like muscle tissue does. So you have to give it long enough time to actually adapt to stressors. And that, if it's only 10 weeks, you're only changing the nervous system. You're not really creating long-lasting change. So that's like one of
Well,
the biggest things that I see for long-standing stuff. And then post-surgical stuff, if they've been dealing with, right, if they get a knee replacement, they've been dealing with knee pain for years, and it's gotten to a point where they can't function. So they've lost
yep.
so much function in their whole lower body. So they're losing strength, they're losing adaptability because of all those years that they can't do these things. And then they get the structure fixed, but then you still have to develop the whole leg and your core and your body systems again, right? And that there's research to show that it takes 2 years to even get back the muscle size that you lost pre-surgery. And that's not even including all the stuff that you lost years leading up to that. So
Yeah.
it's
And
just a long period
plus,
of time.
yeah. And I would imagine, your age when this happens has another compounded effect because
Yeah.
if it's gone too far and then you haven't done anything and you become sedentary and,
Yeah. It just
recovery at
compounds.
64 it's not like it is at 34.
Yeah. And
You know?
because you've been there longer, so your deterioration level goes further and further, right? I like to call it like a negative cycle, a negative loop, right? You get pain, you do less, you get more pain, and then pretty soon you're all the way down at the bottom of the spiral, and it's hard to do anything. So then you're just like completely deconditioned. So you have to recondition, but also recondition your nervous system. And when you're older, it slows down your healing a little bit. It's not like drastically significant until I think after the age of 70, but it's still significant enough that it takes longer. But you also are established in your habits more. So you're trying to break habits that you've had for a really long time that's developed this problem to occur. So there's so many factors that go into it. The older you get, that can compound it a little bit more and make it harder and more difficult for you to come back from.
Yeah, and I do a lot of work with seniors in terms of retirement stuff, and I tell them all the time. I said, if you retire at 65, you've got maybe 10 to 15 years of what I call the go-go years. Well, that's if you've prepared yourself physically.
100%.
Because if you're sedentary, you sit at a desk all day and then you go into retirement and you're just sitting there watching, Gunsmoke reruns. You're not going to have 15 years of traveling the world and doing, hiking and all that kind of stuff. So, You got to be prepared for that.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
also, curious about, the impact of, because it seems like every day I watch TV or something, I'm seeing some kind of, patch for pain relief or some kind of medicine, that people take. And it's just, what's the impact of that industry? Because it seems like that's a pretty big industry out there to help put a Band-Aid on what I call a sucking chest wound oftentimes.
That's a good analogy. It's just making so the biggest impact it's having is giving people the quick fix that they're looking for, because everyone's looking for the quick fix to fix whatever's going on. Um, and they make it seem like it's gonna fix everything for you. Um, and it doesn't. It never does. That's almost everything that you want to achieve in your life is going to come from working really hard at it. Whether
Hmm.
that's coming back from injury, building a business, whatever it is, you can't skip that, but people want to. So this industry, it's definitely a moneymaker because they're going to emotional pain points and they're targeting that to brand a product that this is going to fix it. But most people, they spend so much time on these minor details that don't move the needle very far. So like the wellness space is pretty big with, cold plunges, saunas, uh, compression boots, all those things. And not to say
Right.
that those are bad, right? They have effects to them, but they're not going to move the needle as far as you think it's going to, or as much as they make it seem like it's going to be the biggest thing to change your whole life.
Yeah.
It's a minor detail, and really those things matter to people that are already doing all the other things. Then it can make a significant difference because what they're looking to improve are minor things because they're already doing everything else that they need to do. But for the general population, they're not doing, they don't get enough sleep, they don't eat healthy enough, they're not doing any sort of cardiovascular health, they're not lifting. Those right there will fix like 90% of people's problems if you just do those things.
Yeah. Just basic life 101
Yeah.
stuff.
Everybody knows about that stuff, right? Like nobody, that's
Yeah.
not like taboo science.
Yeah.
But it's just the hard stuff. It's consistency and hard work over a long period of time, and it will fix almost everything.
And I just, in the current environment we're in right now, where they're trying to get away from processed foods and, stuff that's causing autism and obesity and all this other stuff. Well, if that's what you're experiencing, adolescence or pre-adolescence, it becomes a chronic issue lifelong. And let's just face it, if you're obese, your body is not designed for you to be obese.
Yeah,
And so,
100%.
and then I just love what's going on in the marketing world these days. But the weight loss, Ozempic, and all this other stuff.
It is
Um,
brutal, absolutely
yeah,
brutal.
you
Destroys
know,
people's metabolisms, and
yeah,
I think there was a study. It was showing Ozempic, their fat loss was like 50-50 fat versus muscle. And that's a horrible ratio because
yeah,
the more muscle you lose, right, you're looking at a whole bunch of other problems that occur from that. And then once you get off Ozempic, your muscle mass is what maintains your metabolism. Not all of it, but a majority of it.
yeah,
And so it's just, but it's a quick fix, right? It works for what it's intended to do, but it has bad side effects. And
yeah.
I think people just don't, we're caring less about the side effects and more about the quick response that they get. They don't really care what happens down the road.
Yeah, and I know myself, post transplant, I did a lot of uh, anti uh, rejection drugs,
Yeah.
and I'm a big student of redefined print because I want to know what is this supposed to do possibly to me, and I know why I need to do it,
Yeah.
but I don't want to have pay no attention to the side effects, and all of a sudden I've got a bigger problem than I started with.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Or then you're on, 10 different medications because of the one medication you had to start, right?
exactly,
That's what
exactly.
happens too.
So I know you kind of 2.5 years into this business and expanding, and that's always great. That's the challenge for a small business person is, and myself. I mean, I have a pretty close knit business now, but I used to have, 40 employees. And I finally got to the point where I said, okay, enough of the Republic of Wally, creating this big behemoth, paycheck for everybody. Um, because at the end of the day, it's how much do you get to keep
Yeah.
as the business owner?
Yeah.
You know, some people's egos, I think, get involved in trying to do too much.
Agreed.
But at the same time, you really kind of figure on, okay, how much do I keep? What is this doing for me personally? And you have to separate, I think, yourself out to okay, the business health and then my own personal health.
Yeah. No, that's a
And
good point.
balance it, you know. So, what's the long-term goal for you? I mean, is this you want to build this business, steadily over time and retire at a certain age, or what's your long-term goal there?
Yeah. I thought about this a lot. I Retirement seems to me like something that I wouldn't really like want to do, like completely retire.
Well,
So my big goals, I want to grow pretty big. So in our industry in the PT world, the cash pay market niche, there's a cutoff of where I don't see businesses making over 3 million. And I think most of it's because they sell to a private equity before they get further. My thing is, I don't really want to sell to private equity because what they do is they convert it into an insurance model, and so it's
right.
going to go against everything that I'm trying to create.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so what my big plan is, I think what I'm trying to do, it's going to be flexible, but the idea is to create 5 to 10 clinics throughout all of the Metro City, Phoenix, through all the
Okay.
big areas, and then have about 4 PTs per clinic. So they're boutique style clinics. They're very personalized one-on-one. But with that, I want then to bring in the people that I'm my employees into the business and have them part ownership, and then eventually sell to a collective of my PTs and staff that I have. That's kind of I think my overarching goal is
Yep.
that way my employees are bought in, they're part of the growth of the business, and then they keep it alive to keep doing what we're doing, which is providing really high quality care and really trying to change the physical therapy profession and the manner of the quality of that we're giving it. Because with insurance stuff happening and reimbursement rates going way down, you see very high volume, and you see with high volume, you always get less quality. That's just what happens when you got to see so many patients because you can only spend so much time with them.
Yeah, I think my 20 visits, of course, I had already exceeded all my max out of pocket because of the nature of the surgery, but it was a 40% like co-insurance. And so, I was having to pay, you know, up to my deductible, but 40%.
Yeah.
And so, how does that compare to when you do a cash pay model? I mean, obviously, I would think your pricing is probably less than if they went through the insurance model and what the hospitals are charging.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really dependent, but so say someone does 3 visits a week, 40% co-insurance, you're probably paying, I don't know, what are you paying? Like $50 a visit, right?
Yeah.
Let's 50 times,
150 a week, 600 a
yes.
month, you know?
Yeah. So my visits, typically we see people once a week. We do a lot more homework. We do online rehab based out of a rehab programming app. So we charge 200 a visit. And so, right, it wouldn't be that much different, even you using your insurance and having a co-insurance pay. We get really good results and we don't need to see you 3 times a week. So one, you
Right.
get your time back. You're not spending an hour and a half 3 times a week with us. You're spending 1 hour a week with us and then doing your homework at home whenever you have time. We build those things into your structure of a life. So realistically, it's comparable. The other thing people don't understand is if you have a high deductible and you're getting billed that later, you're actually getting billed a significantly higher charge because of what they charge. They try to charge insurance based off of, trying to play the system of the
Yeah.
game that insurance has. You charge more and then you get reimbursed a certain amount. So you actually get charged quite a bit for visits under insurance. And if they don't pay it, then you're hooked on that. So it could actually end up being more expensive. I don't really talk about that much because I want people to come to us for the value that we give. I don't like to compare it money-wise to something else. With us, you're going to get one-on-one time with the PT the whole time, and you're going to get really high quality care because we're very specialized in what we do. My board certification, there's only 1% of PTs that have this because it's such a
Wow.
high standard. It's not
And
easy.
what is that certification? What's it called?
So I'm a board certified sports specialist. So I
Okay.
went through residency training. You have to do so many hours, so many continuing education stuff, so many on field hours, mentors, all these things, and then you have to take a board test. So it's essentially like what a lot of surgeons do to specialize, or what
Yeah.
physicians do to specialize in a certain area. It's a really hard way to go to become very specialized and niche in what you do. So
Mhm.
that's what I did in PT. That's not a thing you have to do in PT, but for me, it was super important. So I could be really good at what I do before I open my business.
Right. Yeah. Earlier this morning, I was talking to a nationwide company. It's a radiologist that, 20 or so years ago started because of what was going on in the imaging world with hospitals and stuff.
Yeah.
And she was able to go out and have a nationwide footprint of imaging alternatives and going directly to businesses for people that were trying to sell. These were bigger companies that were self-insuring themselves for like workman's comp, and
Yeah.
so I don't know if you've thought about that, but that might be something where if you've got a self-insured company that can send them to you
Yeah.
as opposed to them having to pay the full freight for going through a medical insurance type situation.
No, that's actually a really good idea. I have
Yeah.
not thought about that.
Yeah. And like I said, it took her some time, but I mean, she is a nationwide
Yeah.
imaging, and it was just because of the problems with the insurance and the way the medical world dealt with imaging,
Yeah.
and it was inefficient. And she basically aligned herself with people that had a vested interest, i.e., companies that self-insure themselves.
Yeah.
And so, if you had a couple of clients, in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area that were sending, their employees directly to you as opposed to going through, some kind of insurance model.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that would be a huge influx and beneficial for both parties.
yeah.
No, that's a great idea. I'm actually gonna look into that because I
Well, I
appreciate
always
it.
try to buy some kind of little nuggets of,
Yeah,
So,
that's a great idea.
so one of the things, and I don't know, I mean, 2.5 years into it, I mean, you're probably still trying to sort out what you're doing. But when you start to think about, employee owned as you grow it, or, benefits for those people that you bring on. One of the problems and challenges a lot of small businesses have is trying to figure out, how do I give, Fortune 500 type benefits to my key people or all my people, without it costing me an arm and a leg, me being the business owner. But it also kind of provides some ownership and some, for lack of a better term, golden handcuffs, because they're committed. They don't want, they see this benefit growing and they can get vested in that. And in some cases, it can be structured to where they actually have a retirement plan, without having to go through and mess with a 401k. I can talk to you for hours about small business problems or traps with 401ks,
Yeah.
because, at the end of the day, it's a problem for you, the cost, but for the employee, it's a problem because they're thinking they're saving all this money in taxes, but when they get ready to retire, they've got this big ticking time bomb called an IRA, that eventually the government's going to reach in and say, hey, I need to get 20, 25, 30% of that.
You owe me.
Yeah, exactly. So, and for you as the business owner, like I said, if a person is involved in that and it's company owned, and you give a vesting schedule, well, if they, for whatever reason, decide to exit from that, that's all that money that's still yours.
Yep.
So I don't know if something like that's appealing to you or not, but it's
Yeah.
just another way to help.
Yeah,
you know.
that's I haven't dove into how exactly to do it and the best ways to do it yet. I've looked at some ideas, but that's essentially kind of what I was envisioning or picturing doing, is something similar like you were talking about. I just don't know how to structure any of that because
Yeah, and,
I
and,
know
and that's
PT,
really
and that's
Yeah, and
that's
that's
what I
really me. This is, something that we do post delivering your podcast to you. And just so you know, in about a week, we'll send the podcast to you. You're able to use it in whatever fashion that you do. You can share it with all your clients, to help promote your business type of deal. But it's on Spotify and on YouTube, so you'll get some what I call cost-free exposure that way.
Yeah, love that.
And let's face it. I mean, I'm 64, and it seems like a lot of people these days are more inclined to look at a podcast or something other than going to see someone face to face.
Yeah.
Because they can watch it, and instead of Gunsmoke reruns at 10 o'clock, they can watch pop.
Yeah, they'll just change their avenue of where they put their attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, is one of the things that seems to be prevalent these days is AI have any role in what your business model is?
Yeah, I mean, in some of the apps stuff that we use, and some we use ChatGPT quite a bit for some stuff. It will play a bigger role. There's lots of people using it as like their scribe, their dictator for notes.
Mhm.
I don't like it, just because I don't like to have something out recording everything. But I know a lot of people are doing that. But as of right now, in the near future, I'll be trying to do things to set up automations, and I think that's mostly where I'll use AI, is to automate things. That seems to
How
be
do
what
you?
I'm gonna do because
Yeah.
of what I know currently right now. But
How do you market to the prospective clients out there?
yeah, so right now, most of what I do, so the first 2 years, I was a lot of networking, so a lot of community building. I have referral partners, other cash pay, health, wellness space industries that refer us clients, and then word of mouth. Right now, I'm moving into virtual rehab for low back pain. That's where
Hmm.
I'm moving into the space. So marketing via social media ads and just social media in general is where I'm moving to expand some of that. And then I've recently implemented Google Ads for a specialty that we have here, which is pelvic floor with my other PT.
Mm-hmm.
But networking was most of it. Now I'm moving more into learning how to market more wide scale.
And your Scottsdale and Phoenix is what is it, about 6 million people these days?
Yeah, I think
Is
so.
that about right?
Yeah,
So that's a pretty healthy sized market.
oh yeah. And it's
Yeah.
and we live, yeah, Scottsdale's an affluent market too, so
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah. And I would imagine, I don't think that the issues that you treat are economically driven in terms of, a person that's making 200,000 versus someone making 50. Back pain is back pain,
Yeah.
or knee pain or whatever, so uh, obviously I would imagine for people that whether they have health insurance or whatever, when they start looking at the deductibles and like you said, having to travel 2 or 3 times and they only get 20 visits. And I mean, I could certainly see where people would be reaching out to you.
Yeah, and if they've gone through the traditional model of PT, the insurance model, those are more likely our clients because
Yeah.
if you haven't, you don't really know what you're getting. So then you think you're getting essentially like free or low cost services.
Mhm.
And that's what a lot of people think that they're getting from health insurance PT. And that's actually usually not true. And even then, you're getting, 15 minutes usually with the PT. Most of your time spent with someone else.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's almost non-effective. I mean, 15 minutes.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
it's hard because the profession is, and I think a lot of the healthcare professions are stuck this way, right? Like, if it's such a common complaint, you go see your general practitioner, your physician that you go and you get 5 minutes with them, right?
Yeah.
You get like one question you can dive into, and then you got to go, and then you got to come back
Yeah.
for another visit. So it's very similar across the board because it's high volume mills that these practices have to run in order to be successful, and it just takes so much of the quality out. So
Yeah.
well, once people know or can't get better with the low quality, because sometimes right it gets you better anyways. Like not everything's gonna be complicated, and sometimes it's just one easy fix. But most people, right, they'll go through the system and nothing will work for a period of time, and then they realize, oh, maybe it's the system that I'm in, and I need to go see someone that actually can spend some time with me to divulge exactly what I'm trying to achieve and how to get there. Because you need time to do that. That's time specific. You actually have to take the time to learn what they need to do, and then you got to take the time to build them back to whatever they're trying to achieve.
Do you see people that are coming to you before they opt in for like a surgery? It seems like a lot of times, and this is just, I don't know from personal experience, but what I hear is, a lot of the doctors out there are quick to diagnose and say, hey, we got to cut or replace or whatever. Do you see people coming in trying to solve the underlying problem before they have to go something so drastic?
Yes, 100%. They're usually people that are very gung ho about not getting surgery, and they've been told that that's their only solution. Now, there's more surgeons going the route of conservative management. There's a lot of good research to show that conservative management works effectively, and there's also regenerative medicine out there that can be very helpful as well. PRP, stem cells, and stuff like that. Some of it gets a little bit pricey, but the the thought used to be that if you fix the structure, then you fix the problem. But pain doesn't work that way. It's not just structural problems. Because you could have two people that have the same structural problems. One would have pain, one doesn't have pain. So that just tells you right there that structure's not the underlying problem. It's it plays a part, it influences things, but it's not the overall decision maker of whether or not you have pain. And pain's the function of people is what's more important than it is the pain, right? Like people can deal with pain, but when it takes you out of the things that you want to be able to do, that's where the real pain comes in. So if you fix that part, the other pain part isn't even really the problem. You just have to get them their function back. So most people, they'll see us, yeah, because they've been told they need surgery and they want to see if there's another option. Or they get surgery, they go, 3 or 4 months down the road and they're not back to anything that they want to do and they still have pain. Those are people we get to, because usually their benefits run out. That's that 3 or 4 month mark. They're not far enough down the road to actually get back to like hiking or golf or whatever it is. And so they don't know how to get back, but they've been discharged from everything. So those are most of the people that we see, is if they've either failed a bunch of other things or surgery seems to be their only option.
Yeah, and to me, surgery may be necessary, but I don't think there's many people that are looking for surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the natural aversion to surgery is pretty common.
Yeah, but
What?
it's been made where physicians make it seem, or surgeons make it seem like it's your only option. Now, I agree. There's definitely times that, right, it's necessary. It's not like surgery's bad. It's just,
Yeah.
for a lot of these issues, it actually isn't the end all be all. There's lots of issues that it is, but for musculoskeletal injuries, especially if you're not in the sporting realm, most of them are conservative management, because the more you do surgery, the more likely you are to have arthritis down the road and the worse problems you'll have later on. So a lot of those things end up leading to knee replacements, hip replacements, because they've done so many other surgeries without just fixing some of the other underlying problems that keep causing these things to happen.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Or, I really appreciate you sharing the information. And like I said, in about a week, we're going to get this back to you, and you can use it for whatever purposes. It'll be on Spotify and YouTube, and I can certainly circle back with you on some of the stuff that I can help you kind of understand some of the stuff that I do to help small business owners create for yourself personally, but also for employees as you bring them on. So
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else. I just really appreciate you taking the time to have me, and I would love to learn more about what you do. And because like you said, right, you build a business to, right, sustain and build a life for you and your family. Yes, and then the family of the business. So you have to have both of them. So I would love to
Mhm.
learn more about how to do those efficiently and more productively.
Absolutely. And, one of the things I always get a kick out of is the small business owner has say a surplus, revenue at the end of the year, and their CPA says, well, go out and buy yourself a new truck or whatever, buy your wife a diamond ring. It's like, those are not long-term. I mean, it's, throwing money just to avoid taxes into a depreciating asset doesn't make a lot of sense long-term.
Yeah, yeah. Long term, that's a short term satisfaction. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Matt, I appreciate your time, and we'll be chatting soon, I'm sure.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one.